In previous videos we've shown how you can open the calendar component for a particular salesperson, or open the calendar component showing the calendars for all of the calendars in your application. In this video we're going to show how you can selectively open the calendars. So you can see here that I have a sample grid that is based on the Northwind customer table, and for each customer I've got now a calendar ID which I've assigned to each record, and that's because the calendar ID has to be a numeric, so you can't use alpha key as the calendar ID, you have to use 1, 2, 3, 4. And so in the previous video we showed how I can press this button and then open up the calendar for Maria Anders, who is the person associated with that customer ID. Or if I press this button over there, I get to see the button for Antonia Moreno, etc. But a common requirement would be to open up the calendar component showing the calendars for a whole bunch of associated, say, employees or salespeople, etc. So now if I go here, for example, and run a query, let's go and find all, say, customers in the UK, and now I get 7 records. If I press this button over here, I'm going to get to see the calendars for all of my UK customers. So you can see there's my 7 records over there. But if I were to go now and change my query to, say, USA, and then do a search and then click open all calendars, I'm going to basically see Howard Snyder, basically Yoshi Latimer, etc. So I'm basically showing the calendars for all of the people in the current query. So let's go now and take a look at how we did that. So let's go back to the grid builder, and I'm going to go to action buttons over here, which is where we defined that button, and I'm going to go to action JavaScript, where we defined a action to open up a calendar component. And then if we look at the calendar component, you can see here we're opening up this calendar component called calendar underbar Northwind customers, and this is where all of the interesting stuff happens, is in the argument binding. So the calendar component exposes these arguments whose values you can set at runtime, and the key argument here is the calendars to show. So calendars to show is a comma delimited list of calendars that you'd like to show. So by default its value is all, which means that it's going to show calendars for every single record in the calendars table. And I could bind this argument to a field, and in fact if we look at the button that opens up the calendar for an individual customer, so let's actually quickly go and take a look at that so we can see the difference. Let's go back to fields now and look at the definition of this button over here, which is the button that opens up the calendar for a particular person. We'll see that when we look at the argument binding over here, that in this case the calendar to show is bound to the field called calendar ID. So when we go ahead and press the button, for example on this row over here, calendar ID is 5, we're going to open up the component showing calendar number 5. But now let's go back to the definition of this button over there. So I'll go back to design mode, go back to properties, and go back to my action button, and go again now to the argument, and we'll see now that instead of binding this argument to a field in the current row, we're binding this argument over here to a JavaScript function called getCalendars. So you can see here it tells you that you can bind an argument to the result of a JavaScript function, and it gives you some more information about how you can do that. So let's go now take a look at this function called getCalendars. So we know that when we press the button, we would like to pass into the component a list of